Hi everyone, welcome back to SlipTwpKnit. My name's Shelby and I come to you from Shelby Township, Michigan, which is where I do my knitting. If you're new here, welcome and thank you for giving me a chance. And if you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back and thank you for giving me another chance because I can't imagine what I've done to make you want to stay. Anyway. So for those of you who are new, I do this in every single episode, but if you're new, like I said, my name is Shelby. I live in Shelby Township. The local nickname for this place is Shelby Twp or the Twipp. So when I decided to start my knitting podcast, I wanted to incorporate that Twipp because I'm Shelby from the Twipp on all my social media. So I wanted to incorporate that Twipp along with something knitting related because this is a knitting podcast after all. Even though it probably doesn't feel like it very much recently. But anyway, I did want to incorporate those. So what I ended up doing was I mashed up the local nickname for my hometown into the decrease stitch and knitting slip knit. So it's a mashup of slip knit and Shelby Twp. That is how I came up with SlipTwpKnit. This is going to be a short episode. I think the next few episodes you're just gonna have to get used to seeing some short episodes, which is fine. I'm not that interesting. You don't have to stick around for very long, which is good. Granted, nobody's making you watch this either, so if you don't want to watch, you can always close out of it. But I'm gonna try and keep this stuff short just because in the last episode, I believe I kind of discussed it a little bit, but with my knitting, I've been fairly monogamous with my projects recently, so I wanted to, in my last episode, commit to completing my current projects. So in that case, I've basically just kind of been focusing on one project at a time right now. In the future that may change, but for now, with the number of things the things that were on my needles currently, I just didn't want to get overwhelmed and keep casting things on. So that's why at least with my sock projects, sweater projects, that might be a whole other story. I'm not very good at sweater knitting apparently. So in the last episode, I had finished a sock project, and for this episode, I haven't finished a sock project, but I have made quite a bit of progress on a sock project. So, I keep saying now, great. If you've been around for a little while, you've known that I'm working on a pair of socks, such as this, for my friend Tony. These were supposed to be her birthday present back in June, but this pattern really did not want to cooperate with me for a while, and I had to rip it out probably 70 times it felt like. So I did finish sock number 1 a couple weeks ago, so that's complete. But in the last episode, sock number 1 had been complete, but I still hadn't started sock number 2. So I'm currently on sock number 2 as well, and this is what the pattern looks like up close. It's like a cabley argyle. This is a really nice pattern by Rachel Coopy. These are the Thornfield socks, and I'm knitting them on a size US 0. I'm using, for my yarn, is Berroco Ultra Wool Fine, and the color Rosemary. Tony's favorite color is green. Not very much different is going on, but I did cast on sock number 2, and I'm almost ready to start the heel flap. So I would say I'm almost halfway done with sock number 2 within the last couple weeks, because pretty much as soon as I finished recording my last episode, I cast them on because I felt guilty. So yes, this sock has been cast on, and I am not making mistakes on it thus far. I don't have anything to knock on. So yes, and then this project, I love this project, but it is going a little slow because, as you can see, I've kind of got a yarn barf situation and it's all tangled up on itself. So typically what I do is I knit a few rounds, and then at that point there's not a whole lot of yarn for me to work with, so I have to untangle quite a bit and then get back to knitting and then untangle, and then it's fine. It's just slowing me down a little bit, not too much, but I made quite a lot of progress over the last couple weeks. I did. So also, I like this pattern. I'm going to knit myself a pair at some point, and it might actually be sooner than I'm realizing, because what I've learned from this, the first time I knit these, if you're an old viewer, you know, I made my mom a pair for Christmas last year, and they turned out nice. So, you know, I figured I've knit them before. How hard can it be? It's apparently been a lot harder than one would realize for the second time knitting a sock. But this has been nice. It's been a nice process. I believe I know what color, when I do knit mine, I think I know what color I'm gonna knit mine in. But this Berroco Ultra Wool Fine is, aside from the yarn barf, it is a really very nice, it's a very nice wool. It's a superwash, like I think I've mentioned this before, it's superwash. When I'm knitting gifts, I do try to make sure I am using superwash, because while I hand wash my socks, I don't think the people I make things for will necessarily. So that's why I use superwash, so they can just throw them in the washer on a delicate cycle, and hopefully the worst will not happen. If not, it's okay. So this is a superwash, but it's got a woolly texture. It doesn't have the same texture as other superwash wools, if that makes sense. So I really like it, and I recently did buy another skein of Ultra Wool Fine from the same store that I bought this one at. I bought at a store in Berkeley, Michigan, Have You Any Wool. So I was in that area over the weekend, so I went there and I bought more Ultra Wool Fine, but only one skein. But I think I know what I'm gonna make with that yarn too. So I am not feeling guilty about it, but that's what's going on as far as knitting goes. That's all the knitting I've done. You know, I just want to not feel, I don't want to look at my project pile and think so many projects. I want to just be able to focus on, you know, one at a time right now, just because I think with how fast the year has gone, but how slow the days are, I just am trying to slow down myself. So slowing down, concentrating on one thing at a time has really been helping me. And then I'm just trying to not stress about it. This year's been terrible. So I'm just trying to not put more pressure on myself than I already have, or any of that. So that is all. This project lives in my little Britannia bag. This was my birthday present to myself last year in 2019. It was by Wuthering Sheep. She doesn't actually make bags like this anymore. So I'm glad I did get it while I could, because it's very cute. Okay, so non-knitting talk. I do have one thing that I wanted to specifically call out since my last episode. So last episode was episode 20, and thank you for the views on that one. I appreciate it, even though it was a short, pretty boring episode. But one thing I wanted to address specifically, because I've been meaning to do it and I never have, but what I'm trying to do in order to make my channel more navigable, if you ever want to go back and watch any back episodes, I know that with some of my favorite podcasts, I love going back to like the early days and then going all the way to up to present even. I can't stop kicking my tripod. It's so bad. Anyway. So what I've been doing is because I know with my favorite episodes, I like to go back and I like to watch. Sometimes I watched, I think, the whole of Cozy Up with the Stitchin' Sisters. I think I've watched their podcast all the way through twice in 2020. So that kind of tells you how much time I waste on YouTube. But it can be kind of annoying when you want to go back and you have to scroll through a bunch of episodes to kind of get back to where you want to go. So in order to make my channel more accessible and navigable, if you ever do want to go back that far, which why would you, but just in case, I'm organizing my channel into playlists, and I'm gonna have certain playlists are just gonna be 10 episode increments. So I already have one playlist on there that's episode 1 through 10. So the next playlist is going to be episode 11 through 20, and then, you know, moving forward, and then, you know, the next playlist after that, this episode that you're watching right now will be in the playlist for episode 21 through 30, and so on and so forth. I'm just trying to make it a little bit more accessible because there's nothing. I'm a very patient person, but still sometimes I don't even like scrolling. So to alleviate some of that, if anybody does ever want to go back, that is something I've done. And I'll probably call this out in a couple of episodes here and there moving forward, but not every single episode, but maybe every 10 episodes or so. But yeah, that's kind of the only channel maintenance I really needed to talk about that I wanted to address outside of what I'm currently working on. And so that's about it, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with a short episode, and that's what I'm trying to tell myself, because there's a lot of podcasts out there, and for now I think having a short one's okay. The leaves here are starting to change. That's fun. Deer got back into my garden and they ate a couple of squash leaves and one squash baby, but they didn't eat as many as they had. So that is a follow-up from my previous episode on the saga of deer and my squash. My delicata squash is almost ready for picking. Well, I have one delicata squash that's almost ready for picking. I do have a few delicata squash babies that are still coming in, but I got one that's probably ready for picking. The butternut were all eaten by deer. And I do have I have butternut squash babies. Why does that keep happening? I have additional butternut squash babies coming in, but they're not mature enough to be picked and eaten unless you're a deer. So I haven't done anything with them yet, but I'm just, you know, keeping an eye on them and having fun with it. And, you know, if they all get eaten by deer, I guess they all get eaten by deer, but I am hoping to have something to eat. If not, you know, and it's not gonna be enough to get me through the winter. You know, I'm just doing this because it was fun and an experiment and something to do and an excuse for me to hang out with my grandma from time to time. So that's kind of what I'm telling myself, but I can't believe we've been at home since March. And yes, I was temporarily going into the office a little bit here and there, but I've got a few projects that I need to stay home for right now because I have my spare monitor is here at home. I don't have a spare monitor in the office. So once things settle down a bit, I'll go back into the office, but right now I wanted to focus on being able to knock things out and using both of my monitors. So that's fine and fun, and I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I booked. We have here in Michigan a very fun place called Greenfield Village. It's my favorite place in the whole wide world. It's one of my favorite places in the whole wide world. I don't know if it's number one, but it's up there. I friggin' love Greenfield Village. And I've been there for their holiday nights thing that they do during December, but they do a Halloween And so the tickets for Halloween went on. Their site crashed. I couldn't get tickets. And then I know my mom knows somebody who volunteers there, so he was able to tell us when it was back up. So I did buy tickets, and I'm gonna go in October to Halloween in Greenfield Village, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm gonna take my friend Courtney because I just like making Courtney do things with me. So yes, that's really all that's going on here. I am coming up to the end of my camera roll. So that's fine. Like I said, I don't want this to be a long episode. So, where's my face edge? Thank you for taking the time to watch. I really appreciate it. And if you want to comment down below, please go ahead and comment down below and tell me what you're knitting right now, what your favorite color is to knit with in the fall. What's your favorite yarn color for your fall wardrobe? And also tell me, because I'm curious, what is your stance on hot apple cider? I personally love it, but I know it's not for everybody. So yes, tell me what you are knitting, what you're knitting, what your favorite fall color is for your fall color palette, and your stance on the hot apple cider. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day. Thank you for watching again, and enjoy your projects and that we've made it to fall. Happy knitting. Bye.